Welcome people of the World Wide Web. So it's the weekend, so as normal, it is another movie review, and as you can see in the title, it is obviously the Expendables 4. So yes, it has been, I believe, 2014 was when 3 was released, so it has been 9 years, which is surprising. It has been that long. Time does fly. So anybody who hasn't seen the series or knows about it, basically this is Sylvester Stallone. He leads the tag, or a group of kind of mercenaries that work for the government called the Expendables, and the Expendables that basically they go do missions that other people won't do, and obviously they divide knowledge. Kind of imagine a kind of 90s action hero version of Mission Impossible. And this is how they've gone. We're currently into the fourth one. So we start off with obviously Sylvester Stallone. He has a bit of friend time with Jason Statham, and then they go on a mission. Unfortunately, that mission does not go to plan, and it then is revealed that there is someone that Sylvester Stallone was after many, many years ago, and this is kind of this secret person that they're after. He does have kind of a general who stole some nuclear warheads, or some activation codes, and then obviously it's down to the team to get it back. Unfortunately, due to the initial mission that goes wrong, Jason Statham goes off point and gets kind of cancelled, and then he kind of goes on his separate mission within this. This is a bit more explained when you understand the reasons why. There is nothing for after the credits, so you don't need to worry about it. As soon as the credits start rolling, you can walk out as you need to. And it was, as much as I would say, an okay movie. There are, I feel, a lot of things that are wrong with this movie. It has a few good right things to say. What I found out behind the scenes of this initially was going to be a Christmas film, and a Christmas saying that obviously that's Jason Statham's character, and it was going to be mainly about him. And this is kind of what this story is. It is, I would say, a good 70 to 80% Jason Statham's character, and then they've just thrown the other people in there. And to me, it's not an Expendables movie. On that basis, they should have just left it as a spin-off. I don't think people. There are a lot of stuff you can see coming. There are a lot of stuff that there are a lot of other actors and actresses who either don't get enough time or just kind of feel like they phone it in personally. But anyway, let's bang the spoiler warning up as I normally do, and then let's get into the nitty-gritty of this. So, as I said, this movie starts, it actually kind of starts with a war zone. So you have this dictator, he is in a bunker with all his minions, and then they get attacked by the mercenaries, and this is where, I think his name, Io, is one of the martial artists. He is the bad guy, and he has kind of a general, or he has kind of a psychic with him, and that's it. And with these movies, earlier one with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Scott Aiken and stuff, these I actually really liked because they were more bigger, meaner bad guys, and they give them more stance, whereas you have, like I say, 10 good guys and then you get 2 bad guys with a load of minions, and it never really works. I always feel like it should bulk out, it should be more even, but by the by, that's just my opinion. Anyway, so they attack this thing, they go for the dictator, they want the codes, and then it cuts, and this is how it's cut is really not great, because it's really interesting, or not, it's interesting that obviously the timeline is this is happening, then they kind of cut back to a story that's here, and then they kind of cut back to there, and then they cut back to here, and then it's so like you have like 2 stories that then merge, but you're, instead of them going like this happens and this happens and this happens and this happens, it's like this happens but previously this had happened, but we're showing it afterwards, and it's just, it gets a little confusing, and it is just too blatant. So obviously, so this happens, then we forward to Sylvester Stallone in his garage. He drives off to his motorcycle. You know, as he's done in previous ones, you've seen his garage and his shop and stuff like this. Anyway, so he turns up at Jason Statham's house, and he's having, Megan Fox is losing her shit over him. And this is where one of the first things, so when you have the first scene of where you have this complex, you can see the surround, and it doesn't look the best CG, and they do this a lot in this movie, and I don't know what the thing is they've gone to a house, the house is real, they're having a discussion. Why they have it on the bloody doorstep, it does me, because literally you see the back of their head, they're talking to Megan Fox inside, and it's fine. So imagine that back of my head, and I'm talking, and it looks fine, it looks real, and then they turn around to their faces, and then they've got a green screen behind them to show them the outside of the house. but it's not very good green screen. And they use this a lot throughout it. They use it when the main actors are in vehicles. Obviously, you have the scenes, that's fine. And they zoom in on them, and you can blatantly tell it's a screen anytime they're in vehicles. And I'm like, would it really cost that much to just kind of set up a track in the warehouse, had the cars automatically go round that, and then just have the people in them, the proper actors, filming it and doing their dialogue there to make it look a little bit more realistic, and then going, no, we'll actually film this scene, blow a few bits up, then we'll go to another day, and then just probably have the same sort of vehicle on standard there with a green screen behind them, and then going, yeah, I did this. And I was like, yeah, it's very bit distracting. I mean, maybe it was in the older films, and maybe I didn't notice it like 9 years ago when the last one, or 10 or whatever years when I watched the original ones. But for me, it was very distracting. I don't know what the cause is. And I say, with action movies, the practical effects work a lot better, I think, in the 90s and 2000s. When you watch a lot of the movies, there were very clever ways of doing, like, integrating models and stuff. I think James Bond, they did it with certain models and stuff, where it's the angle, where it's the proper actors, and then it's like a model in the background, but it's done so it looks real. And there's stuff like that actually, I don't think you could tell that much. But anyway, so this was a little bit distracting. And then Sylvester Stallone's like, yeah, I need you for help. And they go and get back his ring. And this whole scene, they go to this bar and he wants his ring back because he lost it and he's his back. And you've got Eddie Hall in it. Obviously, I quite like Eddie Hall. He gets beat up and Jason Statham beats them all up to get his ring back. And this whole scene, I'm sitting there thinking, why is this even here? And then at the end of it, he's like, oh, well, I got my ring back, and puts his ring back on it. And I'm kind of like, I don't know why there was even a need for that scene. And then it becomes apparent, and obviously this is where the spoiler warning is. So then they go on this mission and the plane gets shot down and Stallone dies. But he's burnt to a crisp, and the only thing apparent is his hand with his finger up, ring finger up in there. And it was just like, no, he's not dead. That's all faked. What the hell is going on here? Like, when you are trying to emphasise something, you could have just had them, all his team at the bar having fun, and then saying, like, you know, you had a bet, you lost it, we come in for the ring, and then made an emphasis on that. Not literally done a whole proper separate scene when they've had to go out their way and do all this stuff, emphasising a ring to then show Stallone's dead. And I say, killing him off straight off the bat was like, this ain't right. Obviously, then you have his team go off on this mission, because obviously when it gets shot down and Stallone gets killed, because Statham's the only one that wants to protect him. And this was another thing. He's in a plane flying around with guns, and there's these SAM sites. SAM sites are weapons. Sometimes on a vehicle, sometimes they're stationary, and they fire missiles. Basically, they're for anti-air defence, and nobody bothers. Like, we came in this plane, that's the only way we got here. Why don't we take them out before we start taking those out? And they don't. And it was stupid stuff like this, and I was like, I don't get that. Even Stallone, I was like, he was firing flares. I'm like, surely he just fire the flares, just strike the first one, turn around and blow the hell it up, because you've got guns and missiles on the plane. Anyway, it's for this story that Stallone's stepping back and stuff. Anyway, so he's dead, and then you have, obviously, Statham's character gets kicked out, and then Andy Garcia, who is the government official who I didn't like from the get-go, he's like, yeah, I'll be joined. You know, first you see him and he gives him the mission in the very beginning, and then the second time you see him, when obviously Stallone's dead, he's magically got a new assistant. And I'm like, where have you come in? There's no real introduction of her. And it becomes apparent why she's there, and then he's like, well, I'm going on a mission with you. They all get captured, they realise it's a setup, and then the bad guys all come in after they're like, all the team are like, oh, it's a setup, one of you, maybe it's you, maybe it's you, maybe it's you, because there's a few new members and stuff like this. And then like, who's the leader? And Andy Garcia says, well, it's me. And then he's being a bit wimpy, and then they take him out. And like, he gets taken off and taken back to the comms room, and they're like, oh, okay, we want this witness, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, I don't want him. And they beat him around a little bit. And he's like, okay, I'll give you the witness. And that's why he's talking to this woman. And I'm like, this all seems very, you can see this coming a mile away. And it's really funny because the team are captured and they're all like, oh, we're all been kidnapped. There's one of us has got to be a traitor, because they knew that we're coming both times. They take Andy Garcia's character out, and then they all magically get along and all help each other to get out. And I'm like, well, surely you would all be, well, I don't trust anybody here, or trust a few people because one of you betrayed you. obviously it's very blatantly Sandy Garcia from frigging get-go. Yeah, it's transparent as glass if anybody has any connotation of it, because he literally gets captured, gets sent to this comms room, and then his character magically disappears for like half an hour of the movie, not put back in with the other prisoners or not kept separate, or you don't even see him. And I'm like, well, it's blatantly obvious. Anyway, for all of this, we then have Jason Statham's character tracking these people. Basically, he slept with Megan Fox before she left, which was an alright fight scene, but it had the jerky cam, and I hate the jerky cam because you can't really see. And Megan Fox, some of the martial arts moves she did, the only few scenes she did have, weren't too bad. And I really wish they would zoom out and kind of give you a bit more overview of what martial arts, not try and get away with jerky cam. You know, speed the footage up if they're not that fast, or do a few other little bits to make it a little bit believable. And because, yeah, most of the cast don't really do a lot. There's a new girl in it that gets like one fight scene. I mean, Statham, as he's going on his own journey, he comes across Tony Jaa's character. I love Tony Jaa, and he's like, oh, I'm a pacifist, I'm not going to do it now. Lets him off on a boat, and then he magically turns up in his get-up. Him and Statham have this really good fight scene, and then he doesn't really do too much. He has one fight scene with the lash woman, and then kicks the bloke down his like elevator shaft. And it was just like, that was really poor, lackluster, and it was very short. And I was like, this movie seemed very poor from start to finish. I say, if it was a Jason Statham movie, then it would make sense. But it's Expendable movies where the Expendables don't really do a lot. They get captured. Yeah, as I say, like, they have all these plans, and even at the end, like, they realise that they've got to get rid of this bomb. Everybody gets off except Statham. He's like, I'm going to get it. And he has to fight Andy Garcia, and magically, before he goes to fight him, Andy Garcia gets blown to bits by his helicopter, and it's, oh, Sylvester Stallone, he's alive, and it's all a ploy. And I was like, yep, saw this coming, a million miles away. And then they get on his helicopter, and granted, you've got this big boat in the middle of the ocean, it's got a bomb, and it's got under a minute to go. Statham then gets on this plane, they fly away, or a helicopter, they fly out, turn around, fly back, blow up the boat sinks, they then turn the helicopter around, then fly back, and then they probably get 700 metres before you see the timer going, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm like, well, no, that would have blown up far too easy. Plus, surely if there's a boat, when you pick Statham up, just fire a load of missiles and run, because you want to get as far away as possible. And then they kind of have that, I say, and it just seemed a mess. It honestly seems like a movie that really nobody wanted or even needed. I really liked 1, 2, and 3. I thought it told the story, it tied it up nice. You know, either bring in the new recruits and have a new version of it completely, or do like we're gonna the expendables, which sounds like it's the Pitch Perfect women singing with the Expendables. That's just me. And yeah, and this just seemed like it's a mixed mash and stuff like that. Apologies, that's my dog in the background. But so overall, yeah, I give it very reluctant 5 out of 10. I mean, if you like the Expendables, actually, if you go and switch your brain off, there is some good action bits in it for Statham and stuff. It's almost like a fairly good B to C lister movie in my eyes. This is an expendable movie. Why they've done what they've done and edited it and shot it like this, it just doesn't touch the original Expendable movies. It's all a mess. It's predictable. I say, people are Andy Garcia is like, he phoned his acting in. Dolph Lundgren doesn't really do a lot, and the whole premise of him is basically because he doesn't drink, he's not a very good player, and he's got a wig, and they even go like, oh, he's got not mentioned an online dating thing, and then nothing ever comes of that. And it was just this stuff. It's like, as I said, someone's got the Jason Statham, he is doing a standalone movie, and they're like, oh, no, we need to tie it into the Expendables, and someone's kind of rewritten it and gone, right, well, we'll throw this little scene in here, we'll throw this bit in, we'll just throw this character in here, and it just is a mess. It is, it is literally an expendable movie that you could stick in the bin. Anyway, I've been Cypher Sigma, and that has been my review of the Expendables 4. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I shall see you in the next one.